Hello everyone, welcome back to Krish Course. At what time and where are you watching my video? Please tell me in the comment, and if you like my video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, let's start. The Night of Fear. It was a cold and silent night, with the streets of the city empty and the sky covered in clouds. In a quiet neighborhood stood an ancient building that people claimed to be home to ghosts and spirits. However, the residents of this area had grown accustomed to the eerie tales surrounding the place. Ali, a young man always fascinated by such strange stories, decided with his friends to uncover the truth about the building. He invited his friends, Fahad and Nahid, who were more scared than excited, but agreed to join him out of loyalty. Late at night, the three of them reached the building. The rusty lock on the door seemed to have been untouched for years, and the only sound was the rustling of the trees. Ali tried opening the door, and they entered the building, which was filled with old books and piles of dust. But as soon as they stepped inside, a cold breeze greeted them. The discovery of secrets. A short while later, they discovered an old map hidden between the pages of a book. The map pointed to a room that had its own legends. Fahad held the map in his hands and said, "This map is leading us to that room. We have to find it." As they moved deeper into the building, they descended a dark staircase. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed in the building, like a door slowly creaking shut. Nahid's heart began to race, and she urgently told Ali, "We should go back." But Ali, who was braver than the others, insisted, "We have to keep going. We need to uncover the mystery." They reached the bottom of the stairs and found a mysterious door that emitted an eerie glow from the inside. When they opened the door, a strange world appeared before them, filled with tiny shadows darting around on the ground. The terrifying truth. As they stepped further inside, the door suddenly slammed shut, plunging them into complete darkness. Then a voice echoed, like a spirit's whisper, "Why are you here?" The voice not only sent chills down their spines, but it also raised a terrifying question. Whose building is this? And what are you searching for? Ali's eyes caught an old painting on the wall. It depicted a person with intense, sorrowful eyes. This was the figure of someone who had once lived in the building, but now no one knew what had happened to them. The moment they stared at the painting, the lights in the room dimmed, and a cacophony of eerie sounds filled the space. If you don't uncover this secret, you will become part of this place forever. 4. Part 4. Escape and its consequences. Nahid's fear had reached its peak, and she screamed, "We need to get out of here." But as they tried to exit the room, the door slammed shut again. None of them could open it. Just then, another door inside the building creaked open, revealing an entirely different world beyond it. It was in that moment that Ali realized they had stepped into a place where they could never return. The forgotten past, Ali, Fahad, and Nahid found themselves trapped in the eerie room, the whispers of the unseen spirit growing louder around them. As the door behind them slammed shut, the lights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows on the walls. Nahid was in a state of panic, clutching Fahad's arm, her breath shallow as she whispered, "We shouldn't have come here. This place is cursed." Ali, ever the skeptic, tried to calm her down. "There's got to be an explanation for all of this. We just need to figure out what's going on." But deep down, even he was starting to question his decision. The eerie voice echoed again, louder this time. "You've awakened the past. Now you must face it." Suddenly, the floor beneath them began to creak, and the ground shifted, revealing a hidden staircase leading further down into the depths of the building. The walls were damp, and the air felt thick, almost suffocating. With no other choice, they began their descent into the unknown. The hidden room. At the bottom of the stairs, they came across a thick, wooden door. This door was different from the others in the building. It seemed ancient, its surface covered in strange symbols. There was an unsettling stillness in the air, as if time itself had stopped. Ali reached for the door handle, but before he could turn it, a gust of wind pushed him back. The door groaned and opened on its own, revealing a small, dimly lit room. In the center of the room was a large wooden chest, its surface decorated with intricate carvings. The moment they stepped inside, the room seemed to close in around them. The temperature dropped drastically, and the air grew heavy with the scent of something foul. Nahid shivered. "We shouldn't touch anything. It's not safe." But Ali, driven by his curiosity, ignored her warning. He walked toward the chest, his footsteps echoing in the oppressive silence. As he opened it, a strange light filled the room, and within the chest lay an old, tattered journal. The journal's secrets. Ali carefully picked up the journal, its pages yellowed with age. He opened it, revealing pages filled with unsettling drawings and cryptic writings. The writing was in a language none of them could understand, but the pictures told a chilling story. There were drawings of people in strange, ritualistic poses and symbols that seemed to pulsate with dark energy. One drawing, in particular, caught Ali's attention. A drawing of the very room they were standing in, with a shadowy figure looming in the background. This is it," Ali muttered under his breath. "The answers we've been looking for." As Al turned the pages, they began to glow faintly, as if reacting to his touch. The final page was different from the rest. It contained a symbol, a circle with a line running through it. Beneath the symbol, written in plain English letters, was a warning. "Only those who are ready to face the past may leave this place. Others will remain forever." Nahid's eyes widened in terror. "What does it mean? What do we have to do?" Before Ali could answer, the room shook violently, and the walls seemed to close in on them. The journal flew out of his hands, landing at the feet of the shadowy figure from the drawing. It slowly turned its head toward them. The figure was humanoid, but twisted and deformed, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. It took a step forward, and with every movement, the room seemed to grow darker. The shadows bargained. The shadow figure spoke in a voice that chilled their bones. "You have trespassed into a place where the living and the dead do not meet. The journal has been opened, and now you must make a choice." Ali's heart raced. What choice? The figure's voice was like a whisper in the wind. "You can leave, but you will leave behind a part of your soul. Or you can stay and become part of this place forever, your soul's bound to it for eternity." Fahad's voice trembled. "What do you mean by a part of your soul? What happens if we stay?" The shadow figure paused, its eyes narrowing. "Those who stay are cursed to live within these walls. You will become the keepers of the darkness, your souls feeding the secrets of this place for all eternity. But if you leave, you will forget everything. You will lose a piece of yourself, and the memories of this place will fade. Forever." The choice. The shadow figure loomed in the center of the room, its form flickering like a candle flame. Ali, Fahad, and Nahid stood frozen, their minds racing. The air was thick with dread, as if the walls themselves were watching them. The chilling words of the figure echoed in their minds. You must choose, and the price will be paid. Nahid, visibly trembling, gripped Ali's arm tighter. I don't want to stay here. I don't want to lose any part of myself, she whispered. Fahad, who had been silent up until now, finally spoke, his voice hoarse. What if we refuse to choose? What happens then? The shadow figure tilted its head, its eyes burning with an otherworldly intensity. Refusal is not an option. Once the journal has been opened, there is no turning back. You will be bound here. Forever. A sense of hopelessness filled the air as the room seemed to grow colder, the shadows creeping closer. Ali looked at his friends, the weight of their fate pressing down on him. We have to get out, he said, his voice firm, though his heart was pounding. We have to leave. We'll figure it out later. We can't stay here. But as soon as Ali spoke those words, a deep, resonant voice filled the room, not from the shadow figure, but from all around them. Once you leave, you will forget. You will remember none of this. The darkness will claim your memories, and you will be lost to it. Fahad's eyes narrowed. But if we stay, we're bound to this place for eternity, right? There has to be another way. The shadow figure laughed, the sound hollow and full of malice. There is no other way. There are always consequences. You must decide which is worth losing your memories or losing your soul. Ali took a deep breath. He knew they were running out of time. We can't leave without knowing the truth. We came here for a reason. We have to understand why this place exists. Nahid's voice wavered as she spoke. But at what cost, Ali? Is the truth really worth everything we might lose? Ali turned to her, seeing the fear in her eyes. He knew the danger they were in, but there was something inside him, a burning need for answers, that wouldn't let him back down. He took another step forward, facing the shadow figure. Tell us what we must do to leave with the truth, Ali demanded. The shadow figure's eyes flashed, and for a moment it seemed to hesitate. Then, in a voice that was both cruel and calm, it spoke. If you wish to leave with the truth, you must embrace the curse. You must allow your souls to be marked by this place. Your memories will be erased, yes, but the curse will not bind you. The price you pay will be your understanding of the truth, but you will be free to live your lives as you see fit. Ali turned to his friends. This is the only way. We'll live, but we won't remember anything that happened here. The truth will be ours, and we'll be free to leave this cursed place. Nahid shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I don't want to forget. I don't want to leave without knowing who we were. What if this is the last time we ever see each other? To Fahad, whose face had been grim, finally nodded. But if we stay, we are stuck here forever. We never be free. We have to choose. Ali turned back to the shadow figure. We take the curse. We'll accept the price. The shadow figure's smile twisted, its face melting into something darker, more sinister. So be it, it whispered. You have chosen your fate. The erasure. The moment they made their decision, the room began to shift. The walls dissolved into mist, and the floor beneath them seemed to melt away. Ali felt a searing pain in his chest, as if something was being ripped from his very soul. He gasped, reaching out for Fahad and Nahid, but his vision began to blur. The shadow figure's voice filled his mind, cold and distant. You will remember nothing. The truth you seek will be buried deep within, but you will never know it. This is the cost of your freedom. Ali's head throbbed with a sharp, overwhelming pressure, and he felt as if his body was being pulled apart, his very essence torn from him. His thoughts began to fragment, memories slipping through his fingers like sand. He could feel the presence of his friends nearby, but their faces became blurry, unfamiliar. Nahid screamed, her voice filled with anguish, but all could no longer make sense of it. The pain was unbearable. It felt like his very existence was being erased. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the pain stopped. The mist cleared, and Ali found himself standing outside the building. He was back in the real world, standing in front of the old mansion, the wind brushing against his face. His heart raced as he looked around, disoriented. His friends were standing next to him, their faces just as confused as his. How? How did we get here? Fahad muttered, his voice hoarse. Ali shook his head, the memories of what had just happened already beginning to fade. I don't know. Nahid looked around nervously, as if something was still watching them. This place, it's gone. It's like it never existed. But Ali couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. A part of him, something important, was gone. The truth they had sought was now locked away in the deepest corners of his mind, forgotten. And as the trio walked away from the mansion, leaving behind the secrets of that cursed place, they couldn't help but feel that they would never truly escape its reach. The past had been erased, but the darkness that lingered still haunted them. A shadow they could never fully escape. The return of the forgotten. Months passed, and life seemed to return to normal for Ali, Fahad, and Nahid. They continued with their lives, but something was different. They couldn't shake the feeling that something important had been erased from their memories. It was like a vague, unsettling dream that lingered just beyond their grasp. Ali had returned to his studies, focusing on his work with a dedication he hadn't felt before. But when he was alone, he'd occasionally feel a strange emptiness, as if part of him was missing, a part of his identity that couldn't be found. One night, as Ali was walking home from a late lecture, he passed by a small bookstore. Something about it caught his eye. The door creaked open as if it was waiting for him, and he found himself stepping inside without thinking. The smell of old paper and leather filled the air. The shop was quiet, and the shelves were filled with books he had never seen before. His gaze drifted to a section in the back where a single book sat on a pedestal. It was old, its leather cover cracked and worn, its title unreadable, but there was something about it, something that called to him. As he reached out to touch it, the shopkeeper appeared out of nowhere, a thin, elderly man with pale eyes. You found it," he said in a raspy voice. "That book is not for the faint of heart. It holds what you seek and what you lost." Ali froze. He didn't know why, but his heart began to race. "What do you mean? I lost nothing." The shopkeeper smiled, but it was a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You may have forgotten, but the past has a way of finding its way back. If you wish to remember, then take it." Despite his hesitation, Ali found himself nodding. He could feel something inside him stirring, a need to remember, to uncover the truth that had been stolen from him. The shopkeeper handed him the book without another word. As soon as Ali touched it, a wave of memories crashed over him like a tidal wave. The mansion, the shadow figure, the curse, the choice. His heart pounded as images flashed before his eyes, vivid and unsettling. "Don't fight it," the shopkeeper said, his voice now a mere whisper. "The memories will return, but the price, it is always the same." Before Ali could ask what the price was, the world around him seemed to shatter. The book disintegrated into dust in his hands, and he found himself back on the street, the bookstore gone as if it had never existed. Confused and shaken, Ali stumbled home. He needed to speak to Fahad and Nahid. He had to tell them everything. The truth revealed. The next day, Ali met Fahad and Nahid at their usual cafe. They had all felt the void, the strange feeling that something was missing. But none of them had known how to explain it. Now, Ali knew. The memories were returning, and they could no longer deny what had happened. All shook his head, unable to answer. "I don't know, but I think we were part of something much bigger than we ever realized. The figure, it said we would be marked, and that whatever we chose, we couldn't escape it." Nahid, her eyes welling with tears, asked, "What do we do now? What happens to us? Can we ever escape the curse?" Ali looked down at the remnants of the book, his fingers still tingling from its touch. "I don't think we can escape it. But now, we know. We know what happened, and maybe that's all we can do, live with it, accept it, and move forward." As they sat in silence, the weight of their decisions hung heavy in the air. The darkness that had once bound them to the mansion was no longer a mystery. But the consequences of their choices were far from over. The curse had marked them, but the truth had set them free. At least, for now. The echoes of the past. The truth about their shared past had settled in their minds, but it was far from over. Ali, Fahad, and Nahid now knew the history that had been hidden from them. Yet it left them grappling with a deeper unease. Despite the feeling of relief that the truth had been revealed, there was a sense of dread that clung to them like a shadow. After their conversation at the cafe, each of them went their separate ways, lost in their thoughts. Ollie couldn't help but wonder why the figure had been so intent on making them forget. It had manipulated their lives, forced them into a series of choices that led them to the mansion and the dark figure. What had been the purpose behind all of it? Why had they been chosen for this cruel fate? In the days that followed, Ollie began to research the mansion and its past, determined to uncover any remaining details that might explain why they had been involved in such an ancient curse. The more he read, the more questions arose. The mansion was said to have been built centuries ago, long before any of their ancestors had walked the earth. It was connected to a cult, a group of people who had tried to transcend the mortal realm and gain immortality through dark rituals. Their thirst for power had cursed the land, and the mansion had been the focal point of their dark practices. Fahad, too, had his own suspicions. He had always been the most skeptical of the three, but now that the memories had returned, he felt an overwhelming sense of dread. He couldn't shake the feeling that the curse wasn't done with them yet. It had been too quiet for too long. Perhaps it was only biding its time before it struck again. Nahid, on the other hand, had grown quiet and withdrawn. The memories had unsettled her more than the others. She had seen the shadow figure more clearly than the others, had felt its presence lingering even after they had escaped the mansion. Every night she woke up in a cold sweat, her mind haunted by the figure's eyes, cold, unfeeling, empty. She could feel its gaze upon her even when she was alone in her apartment, and sometimes in the dead of night she would hear whispers calling her name. A dangerous revelation. One evening, as Ollie sat in his apartment, poring over more research, he stumbled upon a reference to something called the Sable Ritual. It was an ancient, forbidden ceremony that had been practiced in the mansion by the cult. The ritual, it seemed, was designed to bind the souls of its participants to the land, trapping them in a never-ending cycle of suffering. Those who had performed it were said to have gained great power, but they also became twisted and bound to the mansion forever. "Guys, I found something," all Salt, showing them the details about the Sable Ritual. The figure, it wasn't just haunting us, it was using us to complete a ritual that binds the soul to the land, to the mansion. And we were part of it. Fahad's eyes widened. "Are you saying that we're trapped, that we never escape?" Ollie nodded grimly. "I think so. The figure wanted us to forget so we wouldn't realize what was happening. But now that we remember, we're connected to it. We've always been connected to it. We're part of the curse now." Nahid shivered, a look of terror crossing her face. "But how do we break it? Can we ever be free?" Ollie wasn't sure. The more he read, the more it seemed like the ritual was impossible to reverse. The power of the curse was too strong. The only way to break it, according to the ancient texts, was for the participants to willingly sacrifice something precious, something irreplaceable to sever the bond. But what could they sacrifice? What was worth enough to break the curse? 15. Part 15. The choice once again. The days passed slowly, and the sense of impending doom grew heavier. The more they thought about the curse, the more the weight of it seemed unbearable. They tried to live normal lives, but the shadows always followed them. The figure, though unseen, was always near, watching them, waiting for them to make a mistake. As Ollie, Fahad, and Nahid gathered to discuss their options, They knew that the time had come for another choice. They had been through one before, but this time it felt different. The decision they made now would determine not just their fates, but the fate of everything they had known. Fahad's voice broke the silence. "We can't live like this. We have to do something. We have to break the curse, or it can't to destroy us." "I agree," Nahid said, her face pale. "But what can we sacrifice? What do we have left?" Ali looked at both of them, his mind racing. He thought about what the book had said, about what the ritual required, and then it hit him there was only one thing they could sacrifice. One thing that was irreplaceable. The only way to break the curse was to forget everything again. They would have to erase all their memories, the knowledge they had gained, and the bond that had tied them to the mansion. They would lose everything, every ounce of truth they had fought so hard to reclaim. But it was the only choice they had. "Maybe we have to forget again," Ali said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "We have to let go of everything. It's the only way. The final sacrifice." In the dead of night, they returned to the mansion. The air was thick with tension, and the shadows seemed to whisper their names as they crossed the threshold. They had come to undo the curse, to sacrifice what they had gained. As they stood in the heart of the mansion, surrounded by the echoes of their past, the shadow figure appeared before them once again. This time, it did not speak. It only watched them with its 24 cold, empty gaze, waiting for them to make their final decision. Grouse and Ali, Fahad and Nahid stood together, knowing what had to be done. They closed their eyes, and with a deep breath they released the memories, the truth, the pain, the horror, into the air. As the memories slipped away, the mansion seemed to groan, as though it was being torn apart by the sheer force of their sacrifice. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, everything went silent. The curse was broken. The mansion, the figure, the memories, they were all gone. But they were left with nothing. No memory of their past, no recollection of what had happened. The curse had been lifted, but at what cost? They had sacrificed everything.